Planning Board meeting for Thursday, May 8th, 2025, again, the Great Barrington Planning Board meeting. This meeting is being recorded. Is anyone else recording? Being none, we'll go on with our business tonight. So we'll do attendance. Jackie Kane. Here. Malcolm Fick.
Here.
Jonathan Hankin.
Here.
Pedro Pachano.
Here.
Brandy Nelson here. All right. And then we've got one Form A this evening.
Attorney Ferris is here.
Oh, okay. We've got Attorney Ferris participating by Zoom. Hello, Mr. Ferris. How are you?
Good evening. Thanks for allowing me to appear by Zoom.
Is there a surveyor or is this your game tonight?
What's that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Is there a surveyor with you tonight or no?
No, it's just me.
Okay,
Do you want to give us a quick description of what's being proposed? We do have the surveys in front of us. I think we've got a couple copies. Pedro and I are looking at the Mylar. Jonathan, do you mind? Oh, I guess if anybody else wants to look at hard copy.
I've got it.
Okay.
Yes, so I didn't have a lot. I thought the plan was pretty self-explanatory. The property's just being kind of cut, if you will, so that there is Lot B has lot frontage on Brookside Road. And we're making this into two lots, if you will.
And each meets the zoning requirements.
Yes, I believe that the lot width is, or the frontage was 150 feet. And each has that at the least, and each has the requisite lot area size of at least 43,560 square feet. And there's already existing buildings on there, and they all meet the front, side, and rear yard.
Okay, I missed it before. I said now that note 6 has the zoning dimensional requirements. For
Yes.
the R2 district with the lot area. Okay, great.
So that's why I didn't have a lot to add to you. I thought the plan pretty much shows what Patricia was doing, and that it was done such that it shouldn't present any problems from a zoning.
No, I appreciate that. Sorry. I had looked at the plan initially on my phone, which is, probably not the best media to look at. Do any board members have any questions about this plan?
I just scaled the neck
Yes.
there and it's a little over 40 feet.
And I'm sorry,
It's not mentioned there, but it scales over 40 feet.
and therefore meets the requirements?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Then do we have a motion to endorse?
So moved.
Thank you, Jonathan. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Malcolm. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And did the fees and such come in appropriately?
But I'll have the Mylar here if you wanna have somebody pick it up.
Yeah, I'll make arrangements to have it picked up so we can record it. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
Have a good
you.
night.
Have a good evening.
You too.
All right. Moving on the agenda, we have minutes from 2 meetings, the April 24th regular meeting and the April 26th special meeting. Those have been amended. Do we have a motion to approve them together in one? So moved. Do we have a second? Second from Malcolm, moved by Jonathan. Do we have any discussion on the minutes? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, minutes are approved. Board and subcommittee updates, issues and concerns. Jackie, you sent me something about the DAC.
Well, I shared it with Jonathan, and I was just asking, they came back to us. We haven't met with them yet.
Do you want to explain what,
Do you want me to?
just real briefly?
Okay, right across the street from the Mason Library is the
The
Masonic,
Masonic.
yeah, I keep wanting to say the
Masonic.
temple.
Yeah.
And they came back with an updated landscaping plan,
Yeah,
which is really quite beautiful, lovely. And I just shared it with you.
yeah,
I shared it with Jonathan and said, what's not to love?
right.
And I wanted to know if there was anything that was jumping out that would be inappropriate regarding zoning or anything like that.
Yeah. I would say, I don't know if it needs to come back to us. My only concern, frankly, and perhaps we could put this on an agenda item, but it is the little cart, puppy cart was not included in the original site plan.
No.
And it does drive a certain amount of traffic, which I think on one hand is really good. But I see now that the plan is sort of set up to accommodate a little
And it's,
vendor
and
there.
it's not there all the time.
Yeah.
It's just intermittent and depending upon what the weather is and what's going on, because I actually just went up to the guy who's serving coffee. and
Yeah.
said, how are you seeing this being here?
Yeah,
And I know that the owner is liking the fact that it's engaging people and providing a small service and. And he's created chairs or tables around it, so it's, but it's just not, he's not making any money off of it, it's just making it available to the food truck.
yeah, I don't,
And it's been there for the last year and a half.
I know, do we need to take that up as an amendment to the site plan? It's minor.
I'm not really sure what you're referring to, so maybe we. can
Okay,
talk
I was
about
just doing,
Sure.
because this was all about DAC and I just wanted to see if I could get a reading from a couple people. I
Yeah.
didn't realize that we were gonna make it an agenda item.
Well, it's not an agenda item today, but, you we can talk about whether or not it needs to be an agenda item for the
Yeah,
next
well,
meeting.
I can share the images with you guys. if you-
I think that's too far, yeah.
Okay.
I think we need to put it on the agenda if we're gonna have a whole discussion about it. So I'll follow up with you after the meeting.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear what you thought.
Okay,
Theoretically, though.
Yeah.
Once we pass, approve a site plan.
Yeah.
And they operate on it.
Yeah.
They can still make changes to their property
yep,
without
absolutely.
coming back to us for additional site plan.
I think we've been struggling over the years to figure out the degrees to which, we need to see something again, and so, the code enforcement officer is the one who is enforcing on our site plans, and I think the guidance we've given him thus far has been, if the, if the characteristics of the site plan are changing, dramatically, so we talked to him about egress and parking, because we've seen things that change in parking lots, and we've seen things that change in egress ways, that we think those should come back to us.
But there's no change in the parking or anything. in this.
Right, yeah, I don't think there's really any parking there, but yeah,
It's not, it's in the back.
okay,
Okay,
yeah, no,
no, I'm good, it just
I would say we.
seems to me there has to be, you mentioned it, there has to be some point where, once the building inspector has signed off on a project, then the site plan review, it's done.
I would say the fact that they're moving the trees around, I don't think that's consequential. The fact that they might change the surface of one materiality to
Mhm.
another, I don't think that's consequential. So, I think the issue of when we see things come back, we probably need to have some more definitive guidelines.
Okay. Well, let's put it on the agenda, and talk about it.
But the thing itself that we're talking about, the space, the landscaping is lovely.
It looks lovely.
And it's an
I
added value to the street.
Yeah. All right. Malcolm? Nothing?
No.
Jonathan?
Well, this isn't really an update, but as more of a question. Someone just put a piece of land in Great Barrington on the market. And it has no frontage. But it does have, a driveway easement on the abutting property.
Mhm.
And I didn't know the answer, so I said, you should talk to the building inspector, because I don't know if they'll issue a building permit.
Mhm.
Any thoughts on that?
I agree with the approach you're taking. It's not a legal building lot if it doesn't have frontage, right?
It depends on when the lot was,
If it predates zoning,
if the lot was created
Before 1952.
if the lot was created legally
yeah,
at the time of its creation, if it was a legal lot, then it has building rights.
So you'd have to do some deed research and see when the lot was
What do you
created.
mean created legally then?
So if,
Under the applicable zoning, is that what you're
at the
saying?
time, so if in nineteen thirty-two, there was a zoning in place and that lot was created in nineteen thirty-two, according to that zoning.
Yeah.
And nothing was built on it.
Still a building.
It's, yeah, and it actually can refer back to the 32 law. It has those rights. It's chapter 6, paragraph 4. And chapter 6, paragraph. Listen, I've been
You
dealing
read the
with this,
process?
well, yeah, I'm dealing with it in Stockbridge.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting.
And even in Stockbridge, they've been letting me, let's put it on that deal.
I have no idea when the lot was created.
Yeah.
That you'd have to do the research.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna call Lori. She's good at that.
Okay,
That's interesting.
interesting, yeah, a puzzle. Anything else?
No.
Pedro, okay.
So I just have this, this thing I sent you guys about,
The transportation planning?
yeah, it's like, it's a safety,
Prioritization.
it's a safety initiative. That, I don't know if it's infrastructure bill money or not, I don't know where the money's come from, but it's something,
Just for the record, do you wanna just say what it is so that Kim's got that in there?
it's called, Safe Streets for Everybody, or Safe Streets for all, right? So Safe Streets for All, it's a program where, BRPC has done these studies of places throughout, Berkshire County, so street corridors or intersections, things like that, where there's been accidents and fatalities and so forth. So they're putting together the plan and they're putting together they've actually done the study, which Malcolm sent out earlier today. And they're right now in the process of putting together a proposal for the grants to implement the projects. And so what they're doing is or what we're discussing on the technical committee that I'm part of, is whether or not the proposal will be one sort of lump sum proposal that then, if they're awarded, BRPC would manage all the sites and manage the funds.
Mhm.
Or if there is also an opportunity, the reason I'm bringing it up really is because there's an opportunity, I don't think we have bandwidth, but there's an opportunity to tag along with the consultants that BRPC is working with to fill the applications and submit the applications, but to do it as a sort of independent body. So, and as you can see from the report, I mean, we have no intersections in town that they deem are dangerous. And there's a couple of corridors in there that have been addressed. Well, one has been addressed and a couple of other ones, as Chris mentioned earlier, are going to be monitored by Mass DOT. There is a person from Mass DOT actually as part of this technical group, so his purpose of being there is to actually work with the community. So, you had mentioned that we really have no say because it's Mass DOT, but I've had discussion, we interviewed somebody when I was doing a radio show for Mass DOT, and we asked them a lot about how they interact with communities. So there is some opportunity for communities to weigh in with Mass DOT projects. And in this case, we actually have 2 representatives from Mass DOT who are working on this grant application.
What is the timing? Like, is this something we could put on the agenda for the next
No,
meeting?
we kind of have to make these decisions. We had a meeting yesterday. We have to make these decisions of whether or not we do a lump sum thing, or if sometimes we can pursue it individually by next Friday. And then they hope to have the application in by the end of this month or mid-May. Or then to hear about it at the end of June, I believe. That's the timeline. So we don't really have time,
Okay,
unfortunately.
Okay.
But as long as we're talking about this, I wanted to ask if anybody knows what this corridor is from High and Maple on Main Street. And it's something the town does.
Which number is it?
High
It's
and
at
Maple.
12.
Is it in
I know
Housatonic?
where Maple is.
Is it in
And I know where High
Housatonic?
Street, yeah, there's a High Street in Housatonic.
To
I'm sure
Maple.
there's a High Street here.
It's in Maple.
There's a Maple in Housatonic?
Yeah.
Yeah,
on
Main
Main
Street,
Street.
High and Maple, Housatonic.
Yeah.
Where's Maple in Housatonic?
It's
So could you clarify, you're saying
Main Street from High to Maple?
It just
or are you
says Main
saying-
Street, High and Maple.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is awkwardly worded. I read that one too.
This is something that town's already done.
It's like across from Rising Paper,
What is the it?
from the old Rising Paper, Maple.
Maple is on
But
the.
high
Yeah,
is
it's
like,
before the Rising Gel
But
Cafe,
High is
on
in
the
the
same,
neighborhood.
yeah, no.
same side of the road.
High Street is down by Eagle Shoe.
Right,
Well, no, High
Oh.
Street in Housatonic is off Depot Street,
Right.
right? That's the,
and it goes, and then it goes
just
back up to
looking.
183.
High Street is down for it.
So maybe it is from that intersection at 183 down and then towards Rising Mill. Maybe it's that.
Is
Do
there
you
an issue?
recall doing any work there?
I have no idea what that's referring to.
I wonder if they meant Oak, because Main Street, like from 41 on, it, like it could.
Trying to interpret something.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Well, there is
it
a-
doesn't make any sense,
There's,
though.
there's a map in this thing.
It's only supposed to be 0.7 miles long too, so it can't be
Yeah,
all
it's not
Park
that-
Street. It
Right,
can't
right,
extend from Maine
exactly.
to Maple.
It's
That's,
supposed to be downtown.
It must be this little dot right there, right, Malcolm? That little dot.
Great.
But no, but that's just 32.
yeah.
Anyway, that was just a question I had, because I didn't know where that was. Did I miss, did I get anything wrong with what I said?
No.
Not before? Okay. The other thing I wanted to bring up is that, you know, in doing all of this research at Stockbridge and trying to like wield my way through their regs there. I've been looking at lot coverage in Stockbridge. And so Stockbridge, their lot coverage regulations are similar to ours in the table of intense, you know, the dimensional requirements. The lot coverage is defined as lot coverage by buildings, similar to ours. The only difference between their regs and our regs is that they actually have a definition for buildings. Now, I understand in our regs, when you read the definition of structures, it says in it, in all the language, plus buildings, or it can include buildings. But I was just wondering if it would be a good idea to have a definition for buildings, since when you go to the dimensional requirements, it doesn't say lot coverage by structures. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So-
perhaps,
And so it's.
just to clarify.
And just to let you know what's happening, and I think maybe we should consider this, because what I'm in conversations with is that. In Stockbridge's definition of buildings, it actually says that it's a structure that has a roof on it, and it's meant to provide shelter.
Mm-hmm,
And then structures is just anything else, it could be anything from a deck to a sign.
mm-hmm,
So anything else, so when you go, so what I'm hoping is going to be the result of my research here, in my analysis, is that. They're gonna say that in the dimensional table of dimensional requirements, it says buildings, so
Mhm.
only buildings. Are included in lot coverage, so if you wanna put a deck or something that's open to the sky. It's not part of lot coverage.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I was wondering if you
Interesting.
know, something else maybe we might wanna consider, because I think it's ridiculous with decks, because if you have flat ground. And your deck. Is, you know, as it is now in this town, decks count as structures, so they count towards lot coverage. And if you go over your lot coverage. Then you can just say, okay, screw it, I'm not gonna do a deck, I'll just do hardscape. Right, so the use of the area that you're gonna put a deck in is still gonna be used for the same purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Right, now, if they put a roof on it, then that's a different story, I
Right,
understand
right.
that, but if it's like open to the sky, it doesn't make any sense.
Hmm. Okay, I think about, yeah.
Solve the mystery of the High Street.
Do you think it's high middle Ave?
High Street is actually across the street. It's next to Eagle Boot across the street from Cottage.
Oh,
It's
here.
0.7 miles from the Maple Avenue
Yeah.
to High Street.
So
So
basically from the road.
they're just talking about the Main Street
Main Street
construction.
corridor. Okay,
In fact, what it says is a recent project, there was a recent project in the area. So there's,
maybe the crosswalk.
no, the Main Street reconstruction.
Okay, me too.
Probably pedestrian.
The pedestrian.
Pedestrian crosswalk.
Cross-
Yeah,
Yeah.
that could have been it, yeah.
Railroad Street. And the roundabout.
Well, the roundabout,
Oh.
there's two other issues for the roundabout.
But that's what I wanted, I'm glad, thanks
Not
for
a
bringing
roll
that
back.
up, because if you look closely on that chart. They are recommending that we build a roundabout at State and Stockbridge Road
Mhm,
at Belcher Square.
mhm. Okay. Food for thought. Yeah,
So I have a question. I was thinking about the next steps post our, about this different zoning arrangements that we now have had passed. And I was thinking specifically about RCD.
mhm.
Is this the time to talk about what I'm thinking about, or should I do it later?
Chris is you're gonna do in your planner's report a little, like,
Next steps?
what's the next steps for the zone? Oh, I thought that's what was on the agenda. Did I invent that?
No, I saw it too.
Okay. Uh,
Um,
you will, okay. Do you want, questions to be held until then?
I have a proposal.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, so after Thursday, try Saturday, I was thinking about, okay, now what are the next steps? We've got these things passed. What's our relationship to what we just did and what's now a bylaw?
Mhm.
And I was thinking, okay, I was thinking about awareness and engagement. Awareness of the bylaw that was passed
Mhm.
and the cluster in particular. And some of the questions that I had from members of the community about, well, what were you really saying? What are you really trying to do? We didn't have, of course, we had our public hearings, but they want to know more, or they're confused or something. So I thought, okay, so I'm thinking about our new residential cluster and awareness opportunities. And it's almost like a communication strategy.
Mhm.
Trying to reach out to builders, architects, developers, as well as other towns in
Mhm.
the Berkshires, because there's so many people now beginning to think about doing this, et cetera. And then I was thinking about engaging the community in what would be interesting to learn, how to learn more about RCDs, et cetera. So I'm going back to something I said once before, which is I'd love to see a competitive RFP. Basically open to architects, builders, developers. It's not about building one, but it's to talk about, coming up with creative designs or approaches.
Mhm.
And it would be competitive because we would have two juries to assess, to look at, evaluate the proposals that came in.
Mhm.
Whatever guidelines we give. And two juries would be, one was based with professional scholars and critics, and the other one is members of the community.
Mhm.
And this is kind of modeled after the RFP that I worked on in Tucson for the, January 8th memorial. for the Gabby Givens.
Okay.
And so we had the professional scholars and critics, and then we had the GB community.
Mhm.
But we had a modest prize for somebody who's chosen as a winner. That would be like between 3 and 5K. That would be put up, in my mind, by a bank, a local bank or a developer, just to feed this new potential development process.
Mhm.
And we would have basically exhibition of the drawings and discussion with the finalists of the
Mhm.
work.
Yeah.
And this would be an opportunity to visualize what's going on with cluster developments and what's possible. We'd have to come up with define the guidelines, because people would be all over the place. But it would be interesting because we would be flagging what we're doing, trying to come up with and entice people to be creative about what's done.
Mhm.
We don't want to spend them to spend a lot of money, but if you're an architecture firm and you have young folks working, it'd be a great project to give them to play with, et cetera. And I know other firms that do this kind of thing. So I was just going down that road and then thinking that it would be great to be able to go in some place where you actually have the drawings post online. And then I just remember when we were finalists in the RFP for the memorial. And we're all in a big auditorium and we're presenting our drawings and what the plans were
Yeah.
to a huge group of people.
Yeah.
Really interested in, and they all get to vote on it.
Mhm.
So it's like popular and what the pros choose.
Mhm.
And I just thought, and then there's a timeline, 3 months maybe
Mhm.
total. And I'm just wondering, especially if you get a critic from the Globe or you get a critic from such a newspaper to talk about it and cover it. You've just created this engaging thing
Mhm.
with the community.
Yeah. What
And
could it look like?
I think this is one development that lends itself to the way it looks and how you can imagine it.
Right.
So I'm proposing that as something I'd like us to think about.
Sure.
And let's see what you guys all say.
Okay.
Because I know you've you know, I've heard what you said about our piece before, but I still am interested in seeing something like this. happen.
It has to be very site specific then.
Yeah, I don't know, I mean, I think this is a time for the board members to sort of raise issues to.
I think it might be interesting for the Affordable Housing Trust to have some competition in terms of ideas for that property that they just bought on Park Street.
Mhm. Yeah. I think it's got merit, Jackie, I think, having like design guidelines where
Oh, you'd have
we're
to have-
sort of, well, no, like, let the process develop some design guidelines or in, you know, examples of how a RCD could be developed. I don't know, to Jonathan's point, I don't know that making it kind of an open-ended process is gonna be helpful. I think we would have to do like a hypothetical parcel. And perhaps, Pedro, what you think of this, but this seems like a good student type project too, like design students are often looking for capstone project. Opportunities where they can kind of hone what they've learned through their educational process.
Which students, what students?
Design students
Design
at
students.
various schools, like bringing young people in and just letting.
I mean, I think there's
with an idea.
a lot of potential there, but, and again, it's managing the scope.
Mhm.
But it's also looking at open space in Great Barrington. And maybe they all get to do that and pick a spot that they do it in, and
Mhm.
it's not just 4, it could be
Build-
how many, you know,
It would be
meetings.
buildable space in Great
Yeah.
Barrington. Yeah, okay, yeah, okay,
The golf course. Hagerman golf course.
yeah.
Well,
All right, we're not gonna discuss any specific proposals.
Egremont might want to play with us too, because they're trying to do a cluster development thing as well.
Potentially,
Most of the Hagerman golf course is in Great Barrington.
that's true.
That's the
Sure.
name.
All right,
So how do we go forward with that?
well, we can't discuss it as a topic. We would have to, we'll put it on an agenda, but we're not deliberating right now. This is. issues
Okay, well,
get
that's,
raised.
I'm raising it as a
Yes.
possibility.
So noted. And Kim,
Thank
I'm
you.
sure captured it in the minutes.
She's raising it deliberately.
I see that, yeah. So, lastly, in board, issues, items and concerns, Chris put a copy of the Lake Mansfield newsletter from the Great Barrington Land Conservancy on our desk. I want to call your attention to the back page of the newsletter. Some of you may subscribe to the gbland.org's newsletter online, so you may have already seen this in your email inbox, but there are for Lake Mansfield, 3 volunteer opportunities that are coming up. Saturday, May 17th from 9:30 to 11:30. Saturday, May 31st from 9:30 to 11:30. And Saturday, June 21 from 9:30 to 11:30. If you have any interest in Lake Mansfield, these work days are actually really fun. I try and do 1 or 2 a year. It's a nice group of people. It's a lovely setting. Somebody inevitably makes some sort of yummy snack to like close out the volunteer opportunity with. Typically what we're doing is like invasives management, tree planting, trash and litter pickup. But since the park has been reworked with the change of the road to the path, there's a strip of land against the lake that is slowly being revegetated. And so in the fall, we did a tree planting. Most of those trees appear to have survived the winter. And so there'll be some more enhancements of planted materials there in the park.
I got to water them.
Yes,
That
yes,
was the most fun
exactly,
part, but I
exactly.
couldn't tell the twigs from the weeds. It's like-
Suppose you don't pull it.
It is.
I just
a
wanted
challenge.
The
So
weeds are doing.
the weeds are doing well. I know there was some sort of seed mix put down, but it's hard to tell if that actually. Okay, so next item on our agenda is town planners report. It says time to out with next step because I'm done.
Well, mine is much drier than Jackie's.
Okay.
Because, you know, we'll make the red line changes and send it to the Attorney General. And that's about it. No, so mine was very technical update. Yours is much more exciting.
And it typically takes the AG's office a few months to get.
Yeah,
back.
they have up to 90 days. So the clerk submits the changes in local laws to the Attorney General.
Okay.
Assuming the Attorney General approves them in the summer, they are effective as of town meeting.
Okay. Excellent,
That's all.
thank you, thank you for all your help on that, that was really helpful.
I thought that was funny.
My report?
Yeah, that was great.
Next item is citizen speak, any citizen speak? In the room, I see a hand raised,
James?
it is James, hi James.
Good
Go
evening,
ahead.
it's James Garzone, 84 North Plain Road. Couple of things. Great job on Saturday. I didn't expect the articles from the planning board to be the longest, but you never know.
I'll see you there. Thank you, we appreciate the comments that you made.
Yeah, no, honestly, the team did great trying to just stay with the facts and make people understand. And obviously, majority agreed, so that was good. No matter how much the planning board does communicate, people just don't realize changes that are happening, like the abutter for the zoning, Simon's Rock, she wasn't aware. Or a couple of years ago, when the planning board agreed to 30 units for North Plain Road and went to select board and people up in arms that they didn't know. So you try the best you can and just you move forward. The second question, well, the second is a question. Now that it was stated in a previous meeting about Sierra School developers not moving forward, is there any communication with them as to what's going to happen to this important property that we have in downtown that is just languishing? And my concern is the building's going to be deteriorated to a point where it's going to have to be torn down to the detriment of everyone. It's so frustrating that we've been waiting since 2015 with their promises and their commitments that they're going to move forward. And now here we are, 2025, with no end in sight. And it's frustrating. So thank you and have a good night.
Yeah, you're welcome, do you have any,
Just to clarify, that was a statement from one or two members of the board. I don't know how true it is. Wasn't the position of the board, and I'm not sure anybody was representing facts or not, but I'll leave that to the people who spoke. If they want to clarify.
I can just say in terms of what I know about Searle School, you know, the developer, I have called him a number of times just as an individual, just to ask him what's going on. For a while, he was doing a lot of the work that the historic commission was.
Yeah, we gathered up a lot of the.
So there were a lot of
artifacts
to be salvaged out of the building. And then most recently, there has been the work to demolish the old gymnasium and to secure the building more thoroughly against vandalism. There's been some vandalism there at the building. So, you know, as far as timeline moving forward, I don't think we have any idea. And we certainly don't have anything in our approvals that we can use as leverage. So it's really up to the owner of the building to proceed at the pace that that they are able to. And unfortunately, that's a slow pace. All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay, if that is it, we will adjourn at 6:33.